My Lords, I'm conscious of the imprecation earlier from the Noble Lord, Lord Stevenson of Balmacara, that we keep our contributions short, but I intend to take no notice of it. And for the very good reason that I do not think the public would understand why it is that we disposed of such a momentous matter as bringing to an end-to-end encryption on private messaging services as a mere technicality and a brief debate at the end of this report stage. It's my view, my Lords, that end-to-end encryption is assumed nowadays by the vast majority of people using private messaging services such as WhatsApp and iMessages and Signal, and that they're unaware, I think, of the fact that it's about to be taken from them by Clause 111 of this bill. My noble friend, my amendment would prevent that. My amendment is fairly plain. It says that a notice under subsection 1 of Clause 111 may not impose a requirement relating to a service if the effect of that requirement would be to require the provider of the service to weaken or remove end-to-end encryption applied in relation to that service. Now, my noble friend says that there is no threat of ending end-to-end encryption in his proposal, but he achieves that, I think, really by conflating two things, which I admit my own amendment conflates, but I'll come back to that towards the end. And that is the encryption of platforms and the encryption of private messaging services, because I'm less concerned about the former, much less concerned about the former. I'm concerned about the private messaging services. If my noble friend was serious in meaning that there was no threat to end-to-end encryption, then I cannot see why he would not embrace my amendment. But the fact that he doesn't is eloquent proof that, in fact, it is under threat, as is the fact that the NSPCC and the Internet Watch Foundation are so heavily lobbying against my amendment. They wouldn't be doing that if they didn't think it had a serious effect. Now, I shan't repeat at any length the technical arguments we had in committee, but the simple fact is that if you open a hole into end-to-end encryption, as would be required by this, then other people can get through that hole, and the security of the system is compromised. And those other people may not be very nice. They could be hostile state actors. We know hostile state actors well enough resourced to do this, but they could also be our own security services and others from whom we expect protection. And normally we do get a degree of protection from those services, because they're required to have some form of warrant or prior approval. But as I've explained previously in a debate and report on this, thank you. As I've explained previously, these powers being given to Ofcom require no warrant or private or prior approval in order to be exercised. So there is both a vulnerability, but there is also a major assault on privacy. And that is the point on which I intend to start my conclusion. The evolution of this bill, if we reflect for a moment, in your Lordship's House, has been characterised and shaped to a large extent by the offer made by the noble Lord Stevenson of Balmacara when he spoke at second reading, to take a collaborative approach. But that collaborative approach has barely extended to those noble lords concerned about privacy and freedom of expression. And as a result, in my view, those noble lords rightly promoting child protection have been reckless to the point of overreaching themselves. If we stood back and had to explain to outsiders that we were taking steps today that took end-to-end encryption and the privacy they expect on their private messaging services away from them, together with the security and protection it gives, of course, in relation to scams and frauds and all the other things where it has a public benefit, then I think they would be truly outraged. I don't understand entirely how the government thinks it could withstand that outrage if it were expressed publicly. I do actually believe that the battle for this bill, for this part of this bill certainly, is only just starting. We may be coming to the end here, but I do not think that this bill is settled because this issue is such a sensitive one. Now, given the manifest and widespread lack of support for my views on this question in your Lordship's House, in committee, I will not be testing the opinion of the House today. I think I know what the opinion of the House is. But it's wrong, and it is going to have to be revised. And my noble friend, I think, simply cannot stand there and claim that what he is proposing is proportionate and necessary, because it blatantly and manifestly isn't.
My Lords, the powers in clause 111 are perhaps the